You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast for people who, for once in their lives, are jealous of people in New York City who got jury duty summons this week.
Can we talk about this for a second?
Yeah, let's talk about it for a second.
I need cable news to stop trying to figure out who the jurors are. I don't want to know the profile of the jurors. We cannot make it so that people can't perform their civic duty anymore because they're at risk of being doxxed. So I just need people to let it be. Just let the jurors be the jurors.
Why is that newsworthy?
I think they're trying to do like socioeconomic profiles of people who are on the jury, and they're giving such distinct marking information about their jobs and like where they live that I need them to stop. These people are already putting themselves at risk by being on this jury. We don't have to make it worse.
Yeah, that's really a good point. And you know, I've been called for jury duty a couple times, and I've gotten out of it because, well, I can't be on a jury. I can't. I'm like in opinion partisan media.
Let me tell you something. They did not care. When I was called for New York City jury, I tried every trick in the book. Worked for Obama. Don't believe in the death. Like all the things you can imagine. They were like, "You're good. Sit down."
Oh man. That's rough. Yeah, you know, I've noticed a lot of cable news has to do with authoritative prognosticating. That I think if any other discipline were trying to do it, we would be like, what are you talking about? Like, it's people sitting there trying to predict the future based on, you know, rather than talk about the present. And it's like, I don't know.
It's a no thank you. We don't need this. Focus on something that's actually like more important.
If we're going to do prognosticating, I say leave it to the pros. Like talk to a tarot card reader. I would rather have a tarot card reader on MSNBC being like, uh-oh, the fool. What does that mean? Or
talk to Nicole from 90 Day Fiancé.
No, not Nicole from 90 Day Fiancé. I'm talking like Channy. We would get somebody like
she
Channy.
Is the pro.
Exactly. But I honestly would rather sit around and like think about the future and the direction of that things are going using like, I don't know, something a little bit more mystical than a person who went to Yale Law School trying to like be intuitive.
I get it. I agree. it's like mute. Sorry. Moving on now.
What is happening? I don't really need to. And then look, I'm prefacing this in a show where we're going to speculate on what's going to happen. But right. I think our listeners know, and we acknowledge that we're just trying to understand what could happen.
Right.
And the power that we have over whether or not that does happen. Okay. So first, a really dark story from overseas that I think we should nevertheless talk about because it's yet another example of how the link between misogyny, entitlement, and violence transcends cultures. It transcends countries. It is universal. If anything is universal, the link between misogyny and violence is universal. On Saturday in Sydney, Australia, a man killed 6 people and injured a dozen more in a shopping mall, a busy shopping mall. It appears that he targeted women. One of those people who was killed was a baby. I believe the baby died. He committed the stabbings at a dress shop. His father told the media he wanted a girlfriend. He's got no social skills and he was frustrated. Alyssa, does this sound a little bit like the way that we talk about tragedy when it happens here?
Yeah. I mean, it's excuse making, right? It's like, well, here are the mitigating circumstances. Here's what drove him to it, without saying that his inability to get a girlfriend may have been tethered to a million things other than women themselves.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of times people rush to tie things to someone being mentally unwell. And I, first of all, there are a lot of people walking around the world who are mentally unwell and who put in a lot of effort to managing that mental illness and putting themselves into a place where they can be productive members of society and not destroy people.
Right.
Secondly, I think that mental illness sure loves to glom onto misogyny. It is
it's funny how that works.
And when you are a man who is brought up in a society of any kind that preaches any sort of entitlement to women, and you are denied what you believe you're entitled to, and you're dealing with a complicating factor, I think that's just, it's over and over again a recipe for just violence and tragedy. And my heart goes out to the people in Australia. It was, they have really tough gun laws there.
Yeah.
He was eventually brought down by a female cop who basically opposite Uvalde'd. She was by herself.
Charged in. Yeah.
She was by herself and she ran in and didn't know exactly what she was getting into. So whatever the cops in Uvalde were, she was
the opposite.
The opposite of that. And she was able to take him down. There were people in the mall who were first responders, Australian first responders, who ran from safety to help people. And so, there are, I guess, moments of good humanity among this sort of explosion of bad humanity. But it's just one of those stories that makes you think, you can have a whole community of people who just want to, grow a garden.
Yeah.
And all it takes is one asshole with a gas can to just fuck the whole thing up.
Totally. And to force someone like that female cop to have to put her life on the line. Because he was having a bad day.
None of the people that put their lives on the line should have had to put their lives on the line for that.
Totally.
And it, in any mass tragedy like that, it just is, we look for moments to celebrate. We sort of, to quote Mr. Rogers, we look for the helpers.
Totally.
But they shouldn't have had to do that.
Nope.
They shouldn't have had to do that.
Nope.
Okay. So going back stateside, we're going to talk a little bit about the new ways that Republicans are trying to message their untenable stance on abortion.
We see them.
Alyssa, let's talk a little bit about this.
All right. Erin? So like you said, we're seeing upsetting trends in states with Republican-led legislatures. Did a little deep dive with the North Carolina Newsline. GOP states like Kansas, Louisiana, and Tennessee are pushing bills that would outlaw abortion coercion or trafficking. In other words, forcing someone to get an abortion or helping them get one out of state where it is legal. Republicans keep pushing these and other anti-abortion bills, even though they're widely unpopular, especially in states like Kansas. So, Erin, let's talk about abortion coercion and the bill that's taking the bill that is on deck in Kansas. At first blush, you're like, yeah, no one should be forced to have an abortion, right?
Right. That's what part of what reproductive justice is. Everyone makes their own decisions.
Right.
For
See, but
themselves.
that's where the dodginess sort of sets in.
Okay.
So here we go. It's going to start with Kansas. Republican legislators in Kansas continue to introduce bills related to abortion, despite Kansas voters' overwhelming rejection of abortion bans in a referendum shortly after the Dobbs decision in 2022. Abortion is legal in Kansas, and 6 clinics provide in-clinic services. But right now, House Bill 2436, which is still awaiting action by the governor, Laura Kelly, a Democrat. This bill addresses abortion coercion, making it a felony to pressure someone into an abortion, including doctors. Okay. Right?
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to stop right here because
Please.
Okay. I got to say this. The people writing these laws are depending on the people that they're trying to reach never having had any interaction with an abortion provider.
Yep.
And because here's the thing. A friend of mine who was found herself pregnant, was married, but not economically, it wasn't like a great time. Found herself pregnant, couldn't really afford healthcare. She wanted to have the baby, but was just like, I don't know if I can do this. She went to Planned Parenthood for an exam, when she found out she was pregnant. And the people at Planned Parenthood listened to her and talked to her. And she said they kind of after talking to them, she realized that she could do it. They're not selling you on anything.
No.
They're selling you on making the right decision for yourself. And I've never experienced anything but compassion and care from people who provide abortions or people who
They're not abortion pushers.
No. They would prefer not to have to do it if you don't want to. Like, they're not, it's like, it's myth making. They're trying to make abortion providers into just monsters. And I've only seen them ever operate with compassion.
Yes.
I mean, why would you go into that line of work if you didn't have a compassionate approach?
Well, isn't that kind of telling on themselves?
Yeah, I guess.
Right? Because
yeah, that's true.
They're not. They can't believe that people working at Planned Parenthood just want the best for someone who comes in. They believe, because they operate from a place of only being motivated by agenda, that everybody else is too, or they're projecting that. And it's really sad and pathetic. But Erin, I was like, older lady, really can't sleep much anymore. It's pretty terrible, but it did give me time to do a little Google rabbit hole on coerced abortions, because I'm like, why is this such a thing they think they need to legislate, that they need to prevent?
Mm-hmm.
And I found the Center Against Forced Abortions, Erin. It lives under the umbrella of the Justice Foundation, which is based in San Antonio, Texas. On the landing page for the group, which is the landing page fairly innocuous. They're just like, it's like resource. It's like pretty straightforward. However, once you look up top, you can click on the Moral Outcry button, which has a petition to make abortion illegal in all 50 states and has over 500,000 signatures. They state at the Center Against Forced Abortions that abortion is a crime against humanity, kills babies, and hurts women. They also say that new science shows that life begins at conception, including IVF.
Okay.
So, once again, not so much about safeguarding, more about their crazy policy.
Yeah, this also concerns me because I think a lot of times, especially if you're younger and you find yourself pregnant and maybe you were brought up in a religious tradition or around people that were really judgmental about abortion, sometimes when you talk to a friend, what you are looking for is permission from them to be like, you want to have an abortion, but in your head, you're just like, I feel like it's bad. I feel like I should feel bad.
I just want someone to tell me I'm not a bad person.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And that's not coercion. That is just empathy. That is just listening to them, listening to what they're saying, listening to where they're at, and being like, how you're feeling is okay. What you want is okay. You want to move on with your life right now. You're not ready to be pregnant, give birth, and be a mother. So move on with your life. And maybe later in your life, you will be ready for those things. Maybe not.
Right.
But maybe later in your life, you'll be ready for those things. And don't you want to be the best mother you can possibly be? In which case, you should wait until you feel like you're ready. Could I get arrested in Kansas if this bill became law?
Who knows? That's the thing about everything they're doing, Erin. It is so like they're just confusing people to no end, such that you have no idea what you can or cannot do, except that if you err on the side of not having an abortion, you're probably safer. As it relates to the law.
Okay, but as it relates to your life,
no.
A pregnancy is so many fold times more dangerous than having an abortion. And having a child is also very, whatever. It's
right.
This is stupid. Okay, so they're also trying something like this in Louisiana.
Yeah. Abortion is banned at any stage of pregnancy in Louisiana, with exceptions to save a pregnant patient's life, preserve their health, or for fatal fetal anomalies. So what are they doing? Well, Senate Bill 276, which is awaiting consideration in the Louisiana Senate, creates a new law to make it a crime to force someone to take abortion medication. Now, Erin, again, doesn't that you shouldn't force anything on anybody. Right?
Well, the legislation I've read was sponsored by Senator Thomas Presley, whose sister was the Texas woman, right? Who was forced to take abortion pills without her knowledge, which should absolutely be a crime.
Correct. It's poisoning.
It's poisoning. But I think that's already illegal, right?
Right.
Like, and the Catherine Herron, the woman in Texas, she experienced complications. Her child was born with some challenges, I think some developmental delays. Her husband was only sentenced to 180 days in prison and 10 years of probation. Whereas if he had been a doctor doing it to a woman who asked for it to be done, he would have gotten a greater prison sentence. So that is bullshit. I think we can acknowledge that the Mark Mason Herring thing was total bullshit. But I don't know that this case should be weaponized.
No.
In the way that it is being weaponry.
This was a bad man who did a bad thing. And you and I both know that this law is not about that. It's not about making sure that someone like Catherine always has a choice and that nothing can be forced on her. It's about making sure that there are more babies on this planet.
Yeah. More babies that can be adopted by Christian couples. Taken away
Ding,
from
ding,
ding. Okay. We also have something similar in Tennessee. The Tennessee one was okay. So trafficking.
This was it was confusing even to me for a minute.
So here's the thing: trafficking, I think, is a buzzword that Republicans have found lands with a lot of people who always think they're about to be kidnapped in a Walmart parking lot.
Pedophile. I feel like trafficking and pedophile go together.
There's a sort of like QAnon light.
Yep.
White woman in Target in her car being like, I almost got kidnapped. No, you didn't. You did not, Chloe. You did not almost get you did not almost get trafficked. A paper bag next to your car did not mean you were almost sex enslaved. You were really, really up your own ass. If that's what you think, if you think that Anyway.
I can't.
However, that word I think is like pretty sticky on social media and it tends to garner virality for people who are looking for virality. And I think that Tennessee is like, okay, great. We will attach the word trafficking to the notion of getting an abortion in a state where it's actually legal. Because in Tennessee, almost all abortions are banned. So House Bill 1895 would make it a misdemeanor to assist a minor in obtaining an abortion, referring to it as trafficking. So here's the thing. Trafficking in the social media TikTok freak out sense means that you were almost forced to have your body used for something that you did not consent for it to be used for.
Right.
Driving a minor to another state for an abortion is enabling that minor to not have her body be used for something.
It's almost the opposite.
It is pretty much, I mean, yes, she's getting in a car. There might be some traffic. But I think they're kind of opposite things. I think that, you know, most people who have abortions say, especially if you were like a teenager and you had one, you could be like, whew, I am unencumbered as a result of that procedure. But yeah, no, now we're saying that trafficking is bringing a minor to a different state, including the act of obtaining abortion pills, regardless of where the pills were obtained. So that counts as trafficking. That is a real
stretch.
That's a stretch. But, you know, I think it's very fascist messaging. Take a word and make it mean something take a word that everyone acknowledges as bad. Say that the bad word applies to a thing that you don't like.
Absolutely.
There you go. And just to flag this, Tennessee and Louisiana, along with Arkansas, Mississippi, and Kentucky, have the worst maternal mortality rates in America from the years 2018 to 2021.
Yep.
So,
just need to say that maybe they could be focusing on other things.
Yeah, it's not about the babies. It's not about the moms. It's about
control.
It's about control. We do have some. I don't want to say this is good news.
It's a step in the right direction.
It is not a step in the wrong direction.
There you go. That's better.
I will couch it thusly. Okay, so anybody in the U.S. who has had a baby has probably encountered the absolute gobsmacking shit show that it is to try to take leave. There is a program in this country called FMLA, the Family and Medical Leave Act, which guarantees 12 weeks of unpaid leave after the birth of a child or to take care of a sick family member. It's unpaid. At the end of it, you are supposed to be guaranteed the right to return to a job that is similar to your job. FMLA does what it does, but it sort of fucking sucks. It's unpaid. It only applies to people who work at companies with 50 employees or more who have been at that company for at least a year. Yep. So about half of American workers don't qualify for FMLA and have to rely on the largesse of their employers to be like, okay, no, it's fine. You don't qualify, but we'll still but they could still by law, just fire you when you were away on leave.
Yeah.
And it's unpaid and it leaves out so many people. So According to the 19th, now almost all American workers will be able to take the same unpaid time off after childbirth or for an abortion, thanks to the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. So the law passed in 2022, but this week the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, has finally clarified how the legislation will function.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if you work anywhere and you have worked there for any length of time and you are having a pregnancy-related something, whether that is a birth or an abortion or like, you know, care after a miscarriage, I'm assuming as well, you are entitled to take up to 6 weeks off, unpaid, and you can come back to your job. And your employer is required to make reasonable accommodations for you. So
it is the lowest hanging of fruits.
Yes, you can't be fired for taking leave to take care of a baby anymore. The reason that this was, the reason that this is, you know, now enacted is because there were people who were going back to work when their babies were like 2 weeks old.
Right.
Which is like crazy.
Insane.
With my first child, I could not even like sit comfortably.
I'm sure.
After 2 weeks. Like if you have a C-section, it's even worse. Like you are, look, you don't want to,
if you have
is
a
not
C-section, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but this was the case for a good friend of mine. After the C-section, she wasn't even supposed to carry the baby up and down the stairs for a week and a half.
Yes, but you're also supposed to somehow take the baby to a checkup 2 days later.
Confounding.
Yeah, you're supposed to take the baby to a checkup like 2 days later so they can weigh them. Why don't they do house calls? It's all really stupid. We do it the stupidest way possible in this country.
It's the stupidest way. When you read stuff like this, you have to assume that the people at the EEOC, when wading through the 100,000 comments.
I am so curious about this.
I tried to get in. I tried to see, but they've been shut off. They were closed because it was done. But I tried to see it. I tried to
Can
look.
we FOIA them? I think we should be able to FOIA them.
Let's do it.
They're probably going to charge us like $80 to print out all this.
You know what? Let me treat you.
Oh, wow. Early birthday present from Alyssa.
Early birthday for you. We're going to FOIA the comments and drink them over tea on FaceTime.
I'm just really curious because I think, you know, the EEOC, when it comes to like new rules, it's whatever. I'm going to get in the weeds, but the Federal Register will like have a comment period for things like this. And people can be like, this is what I think about, you know, whatever. And apparently 96,000 of the 100,000 comments were about abortion. Now, I'm wondering if they were like, what about if I have an abortion? Or if they were like, this better not be for abortions. Or if it was some combination.
I mean, we know who's the most mobilized when it comes to writing shitty comments on things.
Yeah. Although I think that the left is getting better at shit posting.
It's a good point. I
think that the left is getting better at shit posting. But I'm really curious what those comments were. I could see there being some kind of coordinated effort to try to get people to comment on this to make it so whatever. There are some exceptions here. So if you're a person who works for a religious employer, you can be denied the right to take leave after an abortion. I'm just saying this. Just fucking lie.
Yeah.
Just lie. Like whatever.
What are they going to do?
They lie to us all the time.
Just
lie. Just lie. I'm saying it. I endorse. Just fucking lie.
They are not entitled to your truth in this matter.
You don't get a trophy for fucking yourself over. Just lie. This is an okay lie. This is a good lie.
Totally fine.
But you know, if you work for the state of a place like Texas also where abortion is banned, basically, you can't take this leave either. I would recommend, if you can, getting the hell out of Texas. But that's
absolutely.
If you have the ability to, you could go ahead and.
You know, you have to think, Erin. So using Texas as an example, do you have to provide like a doctor's note? Like, how is this enforceable, I guess is my point.
I don't know. Maybe they should give out T-shirts after abortions that say, I just had an abortion.
I did it.
Or if I did it. R.I.P. OJ. Yeah, so this is another thing that's like, I don't know. A lot of these rules to me do not get publicized enough. I think a good example of like moms feeling like they don't have the rights that they have is like the Pump Act. There's a law on the books right now that if you are a breastfeeding mom, you're entitled to a private room with a door that locks and reasonable breaks. And I think in a mini fridge, I think a place to store your milk.
Erin, did that come around like 2015, 2014?
It has been a law for quite some time.
Yeah.
And a lot of employers just straight up don't provide that space for you. And no, they cannot make you go into the bathroom. That is against the law. It has to not be a bathroom. They have to do that for you. And so many places don't do it for you. And I think there are a lot of people who don't know that they can like complain about it. Like you're breaking the law.
You know what? Maybe let's find a couple good links to post in show notes today about what people are entitled to when they're having children.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very much. It is not very
it's like
much
the
in
Pump
the U.S.
Act and the Pregnancy Fairness Act.
Yeah, but I think that one of the problems here is that a lot of the women that this would benefit are not necessarily people that are like opening the 19th newsletter every morning and being like, what's going on in the world of reproductive justice? I think that there are people that maybe are disempowered and aren't really, they don't have as much information. And so they wouldn't even know when their rights are being violated. And so I think it's just really important for us to like get the word out. Yep. If you have, friends and family, let them know that this is something now and their employers have to do this. I will say though that, if employers are like, no, what repercussion, like what recourse do you have? Do you have to
you have to file a complaint with the EEOC, right?
I believe so, but that can take a long time. So by the time that's all done, you're just like, okay, well, not pregnant anymore.
Because this is actually, now that the rule is finalized, that is one of the things people can do now is they can sue.
I think the EEOC has a website that you can file stuff on.
Yep, they do. I was on it this morning.
What? Were you complaining about me, Alyssa?
Erin, never. I was finding the official statement they put out because I wanted to see the details.
So yeah, we still don't have paid leave in this country, and it's still fucking bullshit. And we have Joe Manchin and every Republican in the Senate to thank for that because we were so close. So close, but now we don't have it. And this is the best that we have now. And
it's as good as it gets.
It still sucks. It's better. It sucks slightly less than what it was before, but it still sucks.
Yeah.